Machine.
Hi there, it's Claire Lim here, and welcome to Hot Pod Time Machine. This is the podcast where we discuss a decision from our past which changed the trajectory of our future. And I'm very happy to welcome on this episode the wonderful Brian O'Halloran. Hello, Brian.
Hello, how are you, Claire, today?
I am very, very good, thank you. I'm very excited to have you on. When I told you about the theme of the podcast, what were the general things that were running through your mind? You don't have to tell me what you've chosen just yet, but what came to mind first?
Well, the first thing was like, oh, what was the choice that got me a big break into doing the entertainment business? There's other choices like, oh, what if I didn't pursue certain avenues? What if I didn't answer certain phone calls, kind of a thing. That's the first thing that popped into my head was like, oh, those type of decisions. It's not like, oh my God, should I shoot this 8 ball of heroin? No, there's nothing like that I'm going to be bringing up in this one. But there are people who were like that, who are like, well, the day I got sober, that was the moment I changed my life.
Of course. I mean, we make, and I've said this in other podcasts before, so many micro decisions every single day. Sometimes it drives me absolutely nuts thinking about, what if I wore this or did this or spoke to this person or answered the phone? Could that be the sliding doors moment that makes me a millionaire, changes my life? It's the things that we decide every day can really change the trajectory. So, Brian, I'm very curious to know now, what did you decide in the past that changed your future?
Well, to give you a little history, I was doing acting, pursuing the acting world after a bunch of friends of mine were watching, movies in the 80s and the 90s. Sometimes were not the best of quality when it came to performances and directing and whatnot. And I remember we would watch movies and I would like bitch and about like, oh, look at this guy. How does this guy even have a job? Blah, blah, blah. Look how, awkward and wooden and whatever. And I remember friends just going like, well, why don't you do it? Like, huh? Well, if you think you could do better, go ahead and do it, kind of a thing. And so I then started to go and audition for community theaters here in the New Jersey area, in New York, here in the States. And I remember going for my very first audition, and to my friends coming with me, like kind of supporting me in a way. And I jokingly said, well, this is my lawyer and this is my agent, kind of a thing. Um, and I auditioned for a stage play version of the play Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula, where I was auditioning for the role of Renfield, his assistant, his lunatic, so to speak. Got the job, had fun in the rehearsal process. Now, I had done acting in high school, I had done acting in college. Um, so it was good to be a part of like just a group of people who are literally just volunteering to put on a show for their community theater. So years of doing that, about 2 or 3 years of doing that. I then started working in other community theaters in the area of New York and New Jersey. And there was a time where kids, believe it or not, nobody had cell phones.
Oh, I remember
And
those days. I
and
remember.
and and this whole computer internet thing didn't exist. So if you wanted to contact someone, you had to either go home, or if you were at a job that had a phone, and physically picked up a wired telephone and call people. And sometimes they were home, and sometimes they weren't home. And if they were cool, it would ring and ring, and then eventually you'd get their answering machine, kind of like voicemail, but an actual box that
Oh.
had a tape in it. So um, I was at I got a phone call from one of the theater that I had done Dracula at, the First Avenue Playhouse. We feature it in the in Clerks 3. That whole process in making a movie and on auditioning at a theater, that's exactly where we were. And I remember the owner, Joe Bagnall, still the owner today. He's the guy who stands in front of a cat while the cat poops in front of him. That is the owner of the First Avenue Playhouse, him and his wife,
Right.
uh, Donna Jean. And so they had called me a month prior and said, "Hey, These guys are auditioning for people for a film they're going to be shooting locally. You fit like the age range of the cast that they're looking for. They're auditioning next month. You should come. I'm like, oh, okay. What do they need? Oh, just have a monologue prepared and a headshot and resume. I'm like, cool. Now I was working at another theater at the time. The 3 4 weeks go by. The auditions were a Sunday night and a Monday night. Sunday comes and goes, and Monday morning I get a phone call, and it's from Joe Bagnol. And at first, I was just going to let the machine pick up because I didn't know who was calling. I didn't have caller ID to let me know who was calling. So then, when I heard the machine pick up and I heard Joe, "Hey, Brian, Joe Bagnol here," I was like, "Oh, let me grab that real quick." He's like, "Hey, where were you last night?" I'm like, "What?" He goes, "That audition for the guys making that film." I'm like, "Oh my God, I totally forgot about that." I was like, "There's another audition tonight." He goes, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." So went out there on that night. So if I had slept in, if I had let that machine pick up that message and I didn't listen to it, um, I would not have been Dante.
Oh my
And
God. That's such
the
a
rest of my life would have been slightly different.
what do you think the rest of like your life would have been? I mean, clearly you had a passion for acting and theater. So would you have
I
stayed in
did.
that role?
I might have. Would I have been as successful? I don't know. That's why this is a pivotal point that changed my life. I had worked for a grocery store chain. I was moving into management at the time when I was, working my way through acting. Um, and who knows? I then worked for like a barware manufacturer that got me to go to different trade shows and stuff. And I do both, all those jobs really well. When I'm going to commit myself to something, I try to do as best as I could with it.
Yeah.
And so, and those are the type of things you do when you're trying to act. You still have bills to pay, so you work, these type of jobs to pay your bills. So who knows? Who knows what path I would have gone down? And even still, even after we make that movie, if that movie didn't click, if that movie didn't come out when it did, I think if Clerks came out a year earlier or a year later, I don't think it would have connected with audiences. I think if anyone ever goes on, Google and types in, movies that were released in 1994 and then music that was released in 1994,
Hmm.
you're going to see some monster movies and some monstrous music that was made during that time period. And we just so happen to fit right into that niche.
Do you believe in, when people say things like it's divine timing and the universe? Are you somebody that believes in that kind of thing? I mean, you can call the universe anything you want. Some people call it a god. Some people say it's the universe. What's your take on all of that when it's timing and things seem right?
Yeah, the whole there's no such thing as coincidences.
Mm.
Is can be kind of laid here at this. I think the timing of what was going on, if you want to call it, some sort of intervention or some sort of guidance from a force that we don't realize what's going on. I mean, we barely know what's in like 60% of what's going on in the ocean, and that's on our own planet. Never mind what's out there in the world. Um, it is what it is. Things happen. Things can be avoided, obviously. Choices can be made. Sometimes, like Han Solo says, like, I don't believe in some all encompassing power that'll, you know, push my destiny. I butchered that quote. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's that kind of attitude there a lot of people have. But in my point of view, I think sometimes I fall into what I call a stream of consciousness
Okay.
that kind of guides me through things. Like I'll start working on something, and next thing you know, what the subject or whatever I'm talking about or I'm saying like pops up on the TV. And I'm not saying like the cookies on your computer are not tracking every move. And when you're typing in, like, oh, I could use a good lawn chair, and then next thing you know, 20,000 lawn chairs are appearing in your feed. Um, I'm just talking about thoughts that all of a sudden things start moving into your path and you start seeing these type of opportunities or these kind of guiding, you know, guiding interference, guiding influences that start putting you into the frame of mind of like, yeah, maybe I should do a movie about firefighting, I don't know, something like that.
Because I've had the reason for this podcast, and the reason why I started it. I tell everyone that's on this podcast is I started it exactly 40 weeks till my 40th. Now, by the time this one comes out, I think we're almost halfway till my 40th. um, and I kind of wanted something as a marker to count down. And also, it's been a very tumultuous year, my whole life flipped upside down. And a lot of the time, I find myself in the last 12 months thinking, I've met people for a reason. I met that person for a reason and this person. And maybe it doesn't seem obvious yet, but I feel it in my heart and my soul. And a friend said to me, Claire, what if you just meet people because you meet them? And then that's it. But I don't know. Like, it gives me. I think I have to try and find a line between finding comfort in the unknown and also maybe believing in something. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to kind of go to one way or the other. Where do you stand with that kind of thing?
Well, I mean, so your friend's point, can't you just meet people? Yes. I meet people all the time when I travel in airports, when I eat in restaurants, even at some of these Comic Cons, I have casual meetings of people. But then there are people that you actually can go further in depth with actual conversations with, or actually have dinners with, or actually, work with. If you're working at a Comic Con on a film, whatever, and you're all steering towards a certain purpose.
Yes.
Those are those type of meetings that I think are more influential, obviously, than just casual kind of random encounters with people, which still can guide you. Don't get me wrong. You could still have assistance by someone, some random person somewhere who finds your bag when your bag has gotten lost, on a flight, on a, especially a connection, and they're that person that helped you, like, oh, I got it right here, we have it, it's at the gate, well, don't worry, we'll take care of it for you. And you have that kind of, oh my god, I need something from you, please find my bag kind of relationship.
Of course.
But the ones that you could talk about subjects, or talk about whatever's going on in the world, or even just discuss, oh my god, isn't this such a great soup, oh my god, I love this soup, I love making soup, and you get into a whole conversation about making soup. You get to see more of a person than just the facade of whoever they are professionally. There's always, like, when you're ever at one of those kind of functions where you don't know who you're talking to, but then they go, so what do you do? It's kind of sometimes an awkward, off-putting question, because you don't want to be like, "Well, I'm an actor from a well-known movie. Ha ha."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, "Oh, I'm in the entertainment business," is usually what I say. And they're
Yes.
like, "Oh, really? What do you do?" I go, "Oh, well, actually, I've been in some films. I've produced a few things, and I'm an actor." I usually put the actor last because I don't want to be like, "Hi,
Hi.
I'm Jared Leto's stunt double." Yeah.
Oh, you looked great at the Met Gala last night, Brian, by the way.
Oh my god, but the fur balls, all night I've been hacking up fur balls.
Sorry to hear that. I feel like the con space, the convention space, is a really interesting space. Personally, I've been doing it for a while, but now I'm entering the American convention space, and it feels slightly different. It's lovely. It's not a bad thing, but it does feel slightly different. And I've been very, in the last wee while anyway, exercising a lot of caution, because I like to watch people and watch things before I delve in, because my natural stance is to go, oh my god, like, I really like you, like, we're getting on really well, and like, we should go for a drink, and and that's often got me into trouble sometimes, because I end up meeting people that are no good, and or they don't really care. And I am someone that really likes proper relationships with people. Like, I don't do very well with, yeah, let's do dinner, and then we never do dinner. If I say let's do
Yeah.
dinner, we're doing dinner. Like,
Right.
do you?
That's called LA.
Yeah, I know, I've heard.
There's a lot of like, "Hey, we should get sushi sometime. I know this great place down in Redondo Beach. It's awesome. Toodles." And the last time you'll ever see them. Then
Oh,
you'll see them again, let's say at another con again, like, "Hey, whatever happened to that sushi? Hmm?" And they're
yeah.
like, "Oh," I go, "I know, you live in LA. I get it." You know, I excuse people who live in LA. I don't excuse East Coast people like New Yorkers, Philadelphian, Bostonians, things like that, who go to LA and they blow people off. I'm like, you are losing touch of where you're from, because East
Exactly.
Coast people are the same way. They're like, "Hey, you want to get a beer? Let's go get a beer. All right, I'll see you at 7, 8 o'clock. All right, let me just go up to my room. Let me just freshen up. I'll be down. We'll see you. We'll grab whatever." But there's been a lot of times. But you know what? Over the years, you learn to go like, don't even try to say, "Hey, we should catch up sometime." It should be like, "Hey, I'll see you tomorrow on the show floor," because that'll be as far as it goes.
Exactly. I'm so cautious now when people go, "Oh, we should do this, we should do this," and I give people my number, and I just wait, and I'm like, you know what? If you message me, that's fine. Because more often than not, then this sounds quite depressing, and I don't mean it to sound depressing, because I do enjoy the company of people, and I'm obviously curious about people, but people often annoy me as well. Like, I find it irritating. I find that part of the industry, or just people in general, that annoys me, and it perturbs me a little bit, because I'm someone that really does like to make friends with folks and actually collaborate and create things with people. You know, what are your tells now then, Brian? What do you look out
Yeah,
for?
I mean, that's how I was, in the early '90s after Clerks came out and I worked on Mallrats and stuff. I did take trips out to LA and, you know, getting an agent, I had an LA agent. I would live there in short spurts at times,
Mm.
and I felt the same way where I'm a very straight up type of person, very, you know, "Hey, what are we doing here?" Or even after auditions, I'm like, you know, "Do you think we got this?" And, you know, I'd call my agent going like, "So what's the feedback?" "Oh, we're not hearing anything, but don't worry about it." I'm like, No, I'd like to know. If it's a no, tell me a no so I can move on. Don't be
Yes.
dragging it out type of thing." So, I didn't I like to say I didn't play well with others out there, only because I would call people out on their bullshit right then and there. I have no tolerance for bullshit in that sense. So, I plus I was getting more work back on the East Coast than I was in LA. I'm not really that kind of,
Mm.
"Hey, television star, good looks" kinda guy, and I'm not the, you know, the s I could be a sitcom-y kind of best friends kind of guy, but, never leading type of thing, which is fine by me. I've been able to work on some really great projects since. But yeah, that vibe of California, love the food,
Mm.
love the weather, you know, love the landscape that is that area. Love the West Coast beaches. I get that vibe. Like San Diego, one of my favorite cities, just to hang out, have dinner, things like that. San Francisco, like foodie heaven. Every type of restaurant you can think of, beautiful. They actually have seasons. They occasionally get snow and stuff. But as I've gotten older and as the years have gone by, and other friends and colleagues have gone out there, kind of got misled on things or just didn't like how the system is set up out there, and came back. And now a lot of people have moved down to Atlanta. Atlanta is the new hot spot for filming. You have a bunch of studios building their studios down there. It's a right to work state. So you could do a majority of, you know, the work is non-union if you want, that type of stuff. So with that being said, staying in the industry is tough. You really have to not take things personally,
No.
even though if you're in front of the camera, if you're a talent that is an actor, if you're a talent that's that way, you got to learn how to hear no, like
Yes.
85 to 90% of the time, and just be cool with it and just go move on. And literally think of it, if you're a waiter, it's a table that didn't tip, but eventually you're going to get that table that's going to tip you huge, and they're going to be a regular customer that is always going to come in and tip you huge. And you put on a performance, you give them the best service ever. You put in the work, you get to know them as a customer. And like, "Hey Bob, you want that coffee, 2 sugars, black, right? Oh, here you go." You know, it's that type of thing. You learn what then works for the people who are employing you.
Absolutely.
Um, and same thing with writing. Writing is something though that's you have to just learn and keep writing on your own. You're a musician, so you know that sometimes there's nothing that everybody else can do, that until you sit down and start writing and fiddling with the guitar and hearing things out, just leave you alone. Just let me put in the work to get it done. So I get it. And so to answer the original question of superficial people, yes, they're fucking annoying.
Really, I really have to bite my tongue a lot of the time because I'm the one facilitating a lot of the time. I'm going, oh, and I'm interviewing. I mean, I interview really lovely people. I can only think of a few occasions where it's maybe gone slightly awry, and that's out of years and years and years of work. So I've been lucky. But generally speaking, I feel like I'm always on my best. I'm on my best behavior. I've got to be like, whatever. And it's what's quite nice about actually just being purely creative writing, because I write as well, and obviously playing guitar and collaborating with people, is you can let that go a little bit, and that's a really nice thing, to not just be in front and to just create. But what is it that keeps you, or has kept you going over the years? Because there's so many things about the industry that are hard, but what is it that keeps your spark kind of going?
I've been uh, I've been really fortunate to have a circle of creative friends, who are very supportive, who I've been able to work with, collaborate with, be a part of their projects. They've been trusting enough to allow me to put input into their projects, and people who want to work with me. I've been very fortunate that people reach out to me that they want to work with me. Um, and that's what kind of keeps me going. I try to dabble into other parts of the industry, like doing the Comic Cons, and the my favorite part actually of the Comic Cons is the Q and A's, and sometimes there isn't a host, which is perfectly fine by me, because I'll just grab the mic and I'll do like 10-15 minutes of my stand up, and then open it up to questions, and then either, as they say in the comedy world, do some crowd work where people be up at the mic. I'll ask them where they're from, or if they're cosplaying, I'll interview them. It's kind of a trick that saves me when I'm even at my table doing
Yeah.
signings, is as I'm like, "Hi, hey, what's your name?" And they pick out a headshot they want signed, and I'm signing, and I go, "So where you coming in from?" And they'll tell me where they're from, and I'll say, "Oh, I've been to such and such. Is so and so restaurant still around?" That kind of thing. So I turn the table, as instead of me answering all their questions, they're answering my questions, and they think, "Oh, wow, this is great." And then before you know it, I'm like, "This has been so great. Let's take the photo together." And give them the feeling that, and it's true, that I'm interested in knowing where people are coming in from and what they do, and if they have a cool costume on, I'll comment on it, so that I don't have to keep repeating. Like when before Clerks 3 was coming out, people were like, "So when are you guys making a Clerks 3?" Or that was like the number one question,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. So instead of having to repeat 300 times every day what's going on, I kind of mix it up a little bit like that. And so that's the type of thing I enjoy. So doing that keeps me going, meeting other contemporaries, people like Vincent D'Onofrio,
Mm.
or people, like Shatner a few times. Things like that are a lot of fun. I'm a fan first off, and then I'm a contemporary as well. They
Same.
might not become a contemporary, but that's fine. I'll say I am.
I feel very lucky, a lot of the time. I mean, there's a lot of problems that come with just working in the creative industry. It's just sometimes it's just a bloody struggle, but there's times where I've been standing on a stage or sitting on a stage with someone really interesting, and there's maybe 1,500. Well, the last time I really felt like this was with the Loki panel. It was Tom Hiddleston and the cast, and there's 5,000 people out there, and I have never stood in front of an audience of 5,000. And I like that feeling though, because you can feel an energy from
Yeah.
people. I love it so much more than doing junkets and stuff. And I, at some points, just look out into the audience. I probably look crazy. I'm just smiling at people because I'm thinking, this is so nice. I
Yeah.
can't believe I'm doing this. Do you ever think that when you're doing a panel, or has there been a moment where you've thought, this is my job? This is
Yeah.
great.
Just recently, last year at San Diego Comic-Con, we had a Clerks 3 panel. And it was funny because it was on the day that Marvel released their next slate
Ah,
of the next phase of movies.
okay.
So they had a huge, like, the huge Hall H panel that seats, I think it seats about like 9 or 10,000.
Oh,
And they were going on, like, they brought in, when it came for the Wakanda Forever, they brought in African dancers down the aisles, like huge productions. If you ever get a chance, watch last year's Marvel panel. It was crazy.
okay.
And then literally what they do is they go, okay, and they spend like a half an hour in between panels clearing out the hall so that people who have tickets for the next panel can come in. And the next panel was us.
Okay.
And it was nice because I joked. I was like, well, this is great that we had Marvel. How about our opening act, Marvel, everybody, now that you're here for the Clerks. And we had 7,000 people at our panel.
Wow.
And no slam against John Wick. John Wick did not have that many. John Wick 4. And that had Keanu on the dais. So
Whoa.
I remember us being up there, and it was very emotional for me in general, just because the fans who haven't seen the movie, but when you see the movie,
Yes.
it's a very touching movie. There's life-changing things that happen to the characters. So I knew that going in, that wow, this is my first time ever doing a Hall H panel, and having 7,000 people in front of me, us, was kind of like overwhelming. And there were many times where I just took in the masses, because it was, wall to wall people all the way back, and then they disappear into the darkness of, how it is when the lights are hitting you in your face.
Yeah.
You can't see that far deep, but hearing laughter or hearing applause, or hearing, and then hearing the questions, it was a lot of fun and overwhelming. And I thought to myself, like, wow, I can't believe that, so many people waited in line, because you wait out in that tented hot sun area of San Diego, where they put people in the waiting area for Hall H, and wanted to come and hear us talk about Clerks 3. It was a bit overwhelming, but a lot of fun at the very same time.
I'll put obviously a spoiler warning on this podcast because I'm about to talk about Clerks 3. Um, that, I guess that feeling quite emotional for you, looking out into a crowd of like thousands of people, but also knowing that how the film ends. When I watched it for the first time, I genuinely at the end had like a lot of tears. I was gonna say a tear, Brian, but I'm gonna say it was a lot of tears, and in both eyes, not just one, both. So
Right.
I was really quite. It felt very emotional. So that must have been. Does it feel like a kind of weird time to kind of tie it all up like that?
Oh yeah. I mean, the fact that Kevin wrote this character arc, as they would call it, to tie things up, I thought, as emotional as it was, as heartbreaking it was for fans, as heartbreaking as it was for us, even. It was a move that he felt could move on. I mean, if it's good enough for Han Solo and Tony Stark, I think it's good for Dante Hicks.
Yeah.
Um, so that kind of feeling, as it was, I get a lot of people coming up going like, "God damn you, you made me cry," and I'm like, "Well, if you cried, that means you cared. If you didn't cry and you went, oh, well, so sad, too bad for that bugger," I would have been like, what the hell? All those years of work, you didn't care about where these guys were going. But the fact that it made people get upset, is a compliment to the work, I always say. So I
Absolutely.
put in the work, and people felt it, and they felt it in their core. I've had people come up and say, I was at Richmond GalaxyCon, where we
Yeah.
last saw each other. Um, and one of the volunteers, who was with another guest who had left because they had to catch a flight, came up to me saying, "Hey, I haven't been able to come over this weekend because I was with a guest and very busy, but I just want to say me and my husband went to go see the movie, and we're really, really so sad. But for months now, he hasn't been feeling well, and he's been saying to himself, "I really should have myself checked out. I really should have myself checked out." And he went to go get himself checked out, and it turns out that he was close to having a blockage, and so he changed his life and got on meds and stuff like that. And I got all like, choked up, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is the best news." I mean, literally, I'm packing up my table for the whole weekend, ready to get back to the hotel and then eventually go to catch my flight home. Um, this was like the best thing never here, that our little kind of, dick and fart joke movie um, saved someone, made them think to go and have themselves checked out. And we were saying that on the tour when we toured Clerks 3. Kevin did 48 cities, 52 screenings, and I did 12 of them with him. And we would say, like, one of the things is, number one, live every day as if it might be your last, because one day you'll be right. Two, uh, go get your heart checked. Go check, keep your health in mind. And number three, if you've been putting things aside, like, oh, I'll get to it. Time is short. This ain't a rehearsal. Get to doing what you've been trying to put off. And it's a valid theme for this last Clerks 3, which is one that Kevin lived himself with his own heart attack.
Totally.
So if out of his heart attack he could create this art and put it through these beloved characters that got him started in his career, then what a way to punch it through.
It's incredible. My God, I think I'd be so upset in a good way, but I don't think I'd be able to pack up my table after that. I would be like a
Was
mess.
I was out of both eyes, I squirted some tears, just so you know.
I like the phrase "squirting tears." Sounds kind of alright. Sounds kind of wrong. Sounds kind of wrong, but kind of right. I want when you watch those three films in succession, just those three films, Clerks 1, 2, and 3. And what kind of strikes me about it is it sort of makes me think back on stages and chapters of life. You're young and impetuous and you don't know what you're doing, and then you're like, oh, you meet someone, and then you're like, oh, and this, you're slightly mature or whatever. More, well, mature we say, but more mature than you were before. It's a weird time in your life, and then all of a sudden you've got this, you're older. And do you look back at it like that? How do you look back at your own chapters, not just through those movies, but at those stages in your own life?
Well, yeah. I mean, there is oh my God, where did all that time go?
Yeah.
Kind of a feeling when I just focus on that. And it's funny because just a couple of weeks ago, Kevin did just that. Play. We had a beginning at like 11 o'clock at night at the theater that he owns in Atlantic Highlands, New Jersey. Um, we showed all three films in succession with, you know, a Q&A and breaks in between. And it went until like 7 in the morning the next day. And seeing it all together like that, it was this kind of like, wow, just seeing the growth of those characters in the film. But me as a person going like, look how naive I was in my 20s. In our 30s, we was like, wow, we got it. It was so much fun being able to play those characters again. Kind of almost thinking, even at the end of that film, that this was going to be the last time we'll play with these characters again. And then 15 years later to then come back to these characters and then come in with a funny film, but then hit it with such a serious meaning, even though, the sad subject matter. I thought to myself, wow, this was really a highlight of all the three films. As far as me putting in the work, putting in the kind of seriousness that this script out of all of them carried. Like, the other two are still very independently funny comedies on their own, with some life issues that we tackle, but nothing serious. No one's going to die, no one's going to get hurt. But then we come to the third one, and then this is what happens: is life hits you on a random Tuesday, out of nowhere, and that's kind of what this one feels towards the end.
What did
But
you?
at the same time, you think, oh my God, how horrible. But in the end, it kind of feels like he got what he wanted.
Yes.
The fans who've seen the movie will understand what I mean.
Yes, I agree. I I feel like it's more. I'm about to hit a new decade, in later this year, obviously I was saying this 40 weeks till my 40th. Now it'll be about halfway by the time people hear this. And I always like to reflect back, like as you kind of like get a bit older. And I've been very, very reflective in the last sort of year or so. And I guess that's why when I was rewatching the films again in the last couple of weeks, it brought back that feeling of my 20s. And then what was my 30s? God, my 30s were really great, but for my relationship ended, and all of these things happened. And now I'm like, what's the next bit going to be? That's quite exciting. And I was thinking about what I learned about myself. So when you look back now, what, as a person, not as an actor or anything, what do you think you've learned about yourself through those chapters of work and from your 20s till now?
What I've learned, wow, that's a very heavy one. What have I learned about myself is that in the end, sometimes it's best to be your own best friend
Ah.
and not your own worst critic.
Oh.
There was a lot of times I was very hard on myself on different things, or blaming me for not getting certain things, or it was my fault that I didn't do whatever, or I was holding myself back. Um, but if I become more of my own friend and being more supportive in my own choices, as I got older, I could I could sift through the stuff that I go, yeah, I'm not doing that. I've done that, and that was a mistake then. So I've learned from it, and I don't want to put myself through that again. So I'm gonna take different choices and do different things and try newer things. Why not try newer things? If you keep doing the same thing again and again, that's not growth. That's just stagnation. So I think if you become your friend as opposed to your worst critic, I think you'll find mentally you'll be happier, and people will see that.
Yes.
There's people who I know who are self-deprecating in a very serious way,
Mm.
uh, or they're constantly like, well, it's typical for me. Um, that kind of energy, that kind of essence about them, if you can help them, you can help them. But if they're just going to constantly make bad choices or just be the woe is me type of person, sometimes you need to step away. If you can't help them and you don't want that energy coming off on you, and then you just don't want to be like, well, I don't want to do I have to hang out with that guy? He's always a Debbie Downer.
I
You know what I
know.
mean?
I know.
Um, there's that type of people who, or there are the type of people who just are only hanging out with you because they think you are going to help them, that you are going to, they're utilizing you, they're using you. My bullshit meter is pretty quick.
Yeah.
I can usually sniff out people like, oh, I see your agenda. Your agenda is you need me to pass something off to Kevin, don't you? And
Uh,
I usually filter that shit out real quick.
I didn't even think of that. Of course, you must get that all the time. I think it's because I don't feel like that. Because, I just feel like we're all little blobs of skin and bone in this world, trying to get on.
Yeah.
But I've got so many friends in the
By the way,
industry.
by the way, great title of a new song, Blobs of Skin and Bones.
Oh, I'm going to write down the time code at 38:48. I said a good thing. Blobs.
I like it.
If it makes it onto my next EP, Brian, I'll dedicate it to you. I'll dedicate it to you. It's going to be really depressing. I only write depressing songs. That's who I
Hey,
am.
that blob of skin and bones thing. I told her it was good. I told her she should make a song. That's what it's going to be like.
You've got the t-shirt, you've got the cap.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be with the lighter. Play the Skin and Bones song.
Like, dude, that was like four EPs ago, mate. Like, just calm down. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry. It's just Brian again. It's Brian. He's in the front row again. Security.
I told her to write this.
I love it. And eventually, you become my manager somehow. You've wormed you in.
Boy.
You've become.
See, I knew it. You're just using me for me to become your manager.
You were using me to to become my manager too. So eventually, it's full circle. It was cyclical. It was meant to be, Brian. It was meant to be. And that is the story of my rockumentary, Boys and Girls, which will be out very soon. But yeah, I forget that you must get asked all of these things all the time. What do you say to people to let them down, I guess, nicely? Because, of course, you're not going to pass 10 million things on to all the friends that you know.
Well, first of all, I usually point out that I don't live in LA. I live outside of New York City, so I don't physically see him. Otherwise, your best thing to do is you go to his website, viewaskew productions.com. They have a mailing address, an email address, and you can make all your inquiries through there. If it's someone I just met, especially, it's
Mm.
just like I can't vet you. I can't. Oh, but read it. And I go, first of all, what scripts are like, have you submitted it to the WGA? Have you registered it? Is because I don't want to be like reading a script and then like years later, I'm part of some film that's something that's maybe similar to the script that was handed to me 10 years ago. And they're like, oh, he stole my idea.
Yep.
So I always go, make sure I don't read anything unless it's been registered to the WGA, unless it's a very good friend of mine who I've known for
Of
years and decades.
course.
I have a lot of writer friends. I have a lot of filmmaker friends who are like, "Hey, I'm thinking about this role for you, and here, just read it," kind of a thing.
That's different,
Um,
of course.
yeah, and it's so funny. Some people think that myself, Jeff Anderson, who plays Randall, Marilyn Gigliotti plays Veronica, even Rosario Dawson, like we all live in the same house, like Real World or Big Brother, you know,
Can you
and that
actually
we just
imagine
go,
what that would?
"Hey, Kevin, how was your day today, Kevin? Things were good. Hey, Jay, what did you eat my cookies, Jay? Oh my God, who drank all the milk?" Like that's not us, guys. Yes, Kevin was friends with Jay. He was a neighborhood kid. He knew like Jeff in high school. Yes, there is a relationship there. I straight up auditioned for him in 93 and got and has since been able to work with him. Obviously have been a friend ever since. But yes, we don't live together and we're not like Kevin and Jay do see each other pretty much almost every day,
Mm.
but that's a different relationship altogether.
You know what? I
Um,
kind of want to see some kind of Big Brother thing now with just people in their 40s and 50s all just living together. Like,
of like TV shows or movies. I think that would be funny. Like casts of different movies put into that competition type of setting and see who comes out on top. Like bring all the Breakfast Club people together, and see who's gonna screw over who.
that'd be amazing.
Right?
Okay, what kind of housemate at this age and this stage in your life, if you were to be thrown in with everyone, then what kind of housemate would you be? Do you think?
Oh, I'll probably be the dude who's always constantly having to fix things. I'm kind of handy that way. So it'd be like, or the one who's like, who left the light on like all night? This light's been on. What the hell? You know what I mean? Even though I'm obviously not paying the bills if it's a TV show. Uh, but I'll also cook. I'm a pretty decent cook, so I would probably be cook. I'd be an all right one. I'd have to have my own room because I'm a bit of a snorer.
Okay.
So not heavy snorer, but I know that if we were roommates, like how they put the bunk beds in the same room, I'd be like, listen, here, I'd be handing out, earplugs to people. You're gonna need these.
Okay, so I'm getting like some dad energy. I feel like you'd be like the dad of the house.
I don't know, man. It'd be fun. I mean, it depends on who I'm bunking with because like me and Charlie Sheen, I'll be easy like the most easy to get along with compared to like a Charlie Sheen who'll be all over the place with his tiger blood. Um, it's that type of thing. It all depends on who I'm paired with because I'll usually either raise my energy level or temper it a little depending on who else is around.
Right. Okay. So I only raise energy levels for stage or jobs. Generally speaking, I like to make myself very small and quiet. Otherwise, would you say you're the same when you're not working?
Yeah, I would say the same way. I mean, you saw how I was in the green room area of the show. I'm
Yeah.
not the one like, hey, look at me, everybody. I'm eating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there are people like that who come into these green rooms and they're just this big whirlwind of like, please give me attention. And that's just, I'm more I like to eat my food in peace. Thank you
Yeah, I
very much.
almost feel like as much as I'm it sounds terrible. I mean, I didn't mind when we were talking. I thought this is a nice level. We're at the same level, just having food, talking at the same level. But so I sometimes get almost nervous. I get a bit of social anxiety because I think, oh no, now we're sitting at the same table. Do I have to speak to you, or should I speak? No, maybe I shouldn't. Am I too rude? And then I have this whole thing, and then I'm like, they think I'm a dick. Oh, just eat your food. Oh God, it's like, and I just don't.
Well, anytime I come to like a green room, big tables. For those out there who don't know, they have like the big. Some places have the big round kind of wedding,
Yes,
catering kind of tables. So it's a lot of space, and sometimes it's just like a regular 6 foot table where you're pretty much 2 feet across from somebody. I always approach a table, and if it's completely empty, I don't have to do this. But if there's people already there, I go, "Is somebody sitting here?" Even though it looks obvious that nobody else is sitting there.
same.
But I never assume anything. I am always like, "Is someone sitting here?" That's kind of like, "Hey, is it cool if I sit here?" kind of a thing, without saying, "Hey, is it cool if I sit here?" And that breaks the ice. And I'll usually put my stuff down, and then I'll go find what I need to go eat, and then bring it back. And then sometimes, depending on if there's a conversation already going on at the table and I'm overhearing it, and if I could chime in on something, I feel it out. If it
Same.
looks like a serious thing that I shouldn't say a word, I won't. But if it's something where it's like, oh, yeah, have you seen such and such? And then they open it up, and then everybody is like, or I'll go, this time the ham is not bad. Look at this. I'm not going to get salmonella, that type of thing. Just I usually try to break the ice with some sort of joke. If it falls flat, that's funny in itself.
Yes, yes. I don't know. I think in America it's easier for me because I can just open my mouth and people go, "Where are you from?" And then it's easy. So I'm like, ah, good. The
Right.
ultimate icebreaker, my accent, which seems to be the thing. So it feels easier. But generally speaking, I like to be. I don't like anyone looking at me at all, and I like to be very small and unseen unless I'm doing something of that I've been paid to do.
It's
Otherwise,
funny. I thought that when I saw you with your chicken purse. Obviously, you want to make sure it was small. No one look at me and my chicken purse.
I mean, that's more about the psyche of the woman that's got the purse. I'm a 39-year-old rubber chicken bag purse wearer. So that's more about my brain, Brian, than anything else.
Obviously, you're on stage interviewing some incredibly interesting people. You have to actually look interesting on stage with them. I completely understand where you were coming from. I'm just joking about the fact that you had this chicken purse.
Oh, but Brian, the real Claire, the chicken purse is in the cupboard, and I've got scented candles and giant stained pajamas, just eating like food, watching tarot videos. That is literally my life now, Brian. I'm really cool.
Wait,
Very,
wait,
very
wait.
cool.
Are you learning to read tarot cards?
I can read tarot. I've always got my tarot deck close by.
Uh,
Yeah. Oh,
well,
are you into the tarot?
I know it. I've had it done a few times.
Oh,
I know that we're in a massive Mercury retrograde at the moment.
we
I get
are.
it.
We are. Let me guess what your star sign is. Let me think about it. My superpower is guessing people's star signs. Okay. I don't think that you're. I like to deduct it. I don't think you're an air sign, although you are a good communicator. But that air is Libra, Aquarius, or Gemini. I don't think you're any of those. I'm a Libra. Okay. I don't think you're a fire sign because I'm not feeling that energy from you. But I don't think you're wishy washy or too like like a water sign. So I'm gonna deduct that you're an earth sign. I would say that you're either a Virgo or a Capricorn. Shit. I feel like oh shit, you're shaking your head. Let me think, let me think. I feel like you're a Capricorn. Is that correct?
No, you are not correct.
Oh
You're
no.
close. You're close. You're very close.
Am I? Oh, am I? So you're on the cusp or something? Are you Sagittarius or something?
Here you go.
Hell yeah.
Sagittarius on the cusp.
All
Birthday is
right.
the My birthday is the 20th of December.
So you're on. So I kind of feel like I got that 50% right.
There you go.
So I feel like it was half right, half right. Well, next time I see you, I must do your tarot
Wait,
for you.
wait.
Oh,
You're halfway to your birthday, so then what are you?
oh, I am a Libra. That's
So what's your birthday?
my birthday is the 12th of October, and
Right.
my rising sign is Sagittarius, and my moon is Capricorn. The unemotional robot moon, I like to call it. I don't do well with emotions. Squash them all down and put them in a box. It's the good place to be.
You don't let them out and just, or is that your music?
It's like I feel like a typical music wanker. When I'm playing music, I'm like, yeah, man, I'm really getting this out. I'm really writing about that guy that like doesn't like me, or like that time that I didn't do well over here. Like that's so predictable. You can tell by my lyrics where I was at any given point. I'm very obvious as a songwriter. Very obvious. So what about you? Do you get that out? Do you get all your feelings out into your work, Brian?
I think I just found the title to your album, Very Obvious.
Very okay. I'm writing that down. Very obvious. And there was something else, something about skin. Maybe we smush it together. Very obvious skin.
Bags of bones and skin, I thought it was.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Bags of skin and bones. Aren't we just a bags of skin and bones?
And that's why you're my manager. There you go.
What about me? What about what? Emotions?
Yeah.
Oh, I wear them quite easily on my sleeve. I can if I'm annoyed, people find I kind of let people know immediately.
Mm,
I mean, like even if like someone's like if the dinner reservation gets screwed up, I'm like that, but that's why we called. Like, what do you mean the table's not ready when that's why we called ahead of time? That's why it's a reservation. Sometimes I get a little sarcasm is my main medium.
sure.
That's my communicative tool of emotions, comes through with sarcasm.
Sure.
Sarcasm could be in a light, very fun way and I'm having a good time, or my sarcasm can be incredibly biting because I'm annoyed.
Okay, I'm
And
gonna watch out for that with
yeah,
you
yeah.
then. I'm
but
gonna.
you know, the other thing too is if I'm quiet with a group of people, there's something or someone I'm not jibing with. But if I'm joking with someone or even making fun of in a very cute way or some way, I'm vibing with that person. Like I get it. Usually I say if I'm not making fun of you, then something's wrong.
I'm exactly the same, and I think it's a Celtic thing. It must be a Celtic thing.
It is. I mean,
100%.
sarcasm and dark humor and taking the piss out of people, as they would say, is like one of my fun things I love to do.
I love taking the piss out of people. I love taking the piss out of people I like. And there was a point. It was a couple of weeks ago. We were all out in a group. It was at the last con, and I went very deadly quiet. It was a big group because there was someone there. I was watching, and I was like, I don't like the cut of your jib. Just didn't like it, but I won't be nasty. And my friend who was there was like, you all right? And I was like, yeah, fine. He's like, you sure? And I was like, yeah. It's because I stopped taking the piss and I stopped.
Right.
I was just like, I'm just gonna quietly drink and stare at people. that was it.
It's funny. That's exactly what I do too. Where people are like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." And then they're like, "What's up?" And I'm like, "I'll tell you later. It's all
Yes.
good. But everything's fine. Everything's good. Nobody stole something from me. It's just there are certain people who they need the attention right now, which is all good. I'm a
Hmm.
very cool team player like that. But then there are people who are just like, ah, this guy. Oh, this guy again. Or oh, this chick again. Oh my God.
Oh,
You
I
know,
find it hard though, Brian. Sometimes when I just feel like, I'm older now. I'm not. I don't have to. I sometimes feel like I don't have to play this game, and
right.
sometimes I do just go. So, and then I'll say something, and I just want to, I just want to cause a bit of chaos and go. What will happen if I just throw a little bomb in here and go, like,
Oh, look at us talking about being shit starters.
you know what? Next time we're socializing together, if we either go quiet, we can either go quiet together. We should team up, Brian. Like we should totally team up. Do you hate them? Yeah, I totally hate them too. Let's just seethe. Let's just seethe and then throw a bomb in and then seethe.
That's funny. Here's a subject for you. Uh, French dogs, the French bulldogs. Is it just another version like Paris Hilton, or do you really love the pet? Go.
Totally. Then Steve, like
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, Brian,
Meanwhile,
Steve.
that whole weekend, the person's been showing. Oh, look at my French pur. Isn't that that's my? Oh my God, this dog cost $10,000.
Well done to you. Shut up. Oh God.
You still have to. Do you still have to pick up that $10,000 dog shit? You
Exactly.
still have to walk out there and bend over and pick it up.
Exactly. Is that shit made of gold? Shut up. Like I'm
Right.
just like,
As the dog, come back to me when the dog is talking.
I'm renaming this podcast to
Uh-oh.
just Seethers United. Or just like, I found my partner in crime. I can't wait till we go out for a drink together, Brian. It's good. It's gonna be good. Like
We'll be like Statler and Waldorf, the two old guys from the Muppet Show, up in the booth. Up in the look at that guy. Hey, listen, mister, you need to get a shave.
I
Like
love it. I love it. I can't wait. I love causing a bit of chaos. I love it so much. I just like. I don't know. It's terrible. A lot of people go, "Oh no, why?" I'm like, because I get bored, and I just think,
and to be honest with you, some people take themselves way too seriously and need to be knocked down a peg.
I know. It's like, come on, like just have a bloody laugh. Ugh.
Right.
Anyway, Brian, it was. I feel like we're going into another part of the podcast where we just moan about everything, which is actually something I love doing. But we're gonna have to save it. Brian, you've been absolutely wonderful. Now, by the time this comes out, it'll be, I think, late May 2023. If you're listening to this years later, in some kind of time capsule. So, in 2023, summer 2023, what cons do you have coming up? What do you have coming up immediately?
In the summer of 2023, which I would call that, I don't know, June, right? Would
Yes,
be.
yes.
I'm going to be at SinisterCon in Sacramento, California, the weekend of the 16th, 17th, and 18th of June.
Nice.
I'm going back to Detroit for Astronomicon 6.5. We were there earlier this year, but Kevin Smith and Jason Lee's flights were diverted because there was snow. So they're bringing us all back in Livonia, Michigan. So that's astronomicon.com for
Nice.
information. I'll be appearing at Kevin's store in Red Bank, New Jersey. He's having a comic book signing at the beginning of July, but also at the end of June, we're doing a screening of all 6 episodes of the Clerks cartoon. That's at the Smodcastle Cinemas. And then after that, July is starting to fill up. There are some that I can't announce just as of yet because they haven't announced it yet. But there's a bunch of shows in July, and then August. There'll be GeekedCon in Shreveport, Louisiana. That'll be myself and Kevin and Jeff and Jay and a whole bunch of us.
Nice.
And at the beginning of September, GalaxyCon, Austin, Texas, which will be its first time there. And I love the city of Austin. The last time I was there was for a Wizard World before they got bought by Fan Expo. So I'll be there.
Yeah.
You can check all that out on my Twitter or Instagram account, Brian C. O'Halloran, or Brian C. O'Halloran on Instagram, or the Brian C. O'Halloran on Facebook. That'll give you the link to my link tree, and all the links of all the shows and all my appearances are there, including a link to that San Diego Comic-Con Hall H. You can see the whole interview. I have a link to that there for the YouTube video, and you can see me get all like choked up and verklempt.
Oh, I'm gonna watch that. I'd like to see that actually. Thank you very much, Brian. It's been absolutely wonderful to speak to you again. It's been great.
Yes, it's always fun chatting with you, Claire. You're an absolute delight and a fresh air of a person to do interviews with, and I can't wait to see you again.
Thank you, guys. This has been Hot Pod Time Machine. I'm Claire. This is Brian, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.
Hot Time Machine.